what a great scoop we had this week. You were leaked some audio from the L. Ron Hubbard birthday celebration, which is always one of my favorite events of the year. And we got just a piece of it, but a very important piece, I think. Thank you, first of all, for doing that. That's great.
Well, you're welcome. And by the way, I have more of it now. I have not had a chance to listen to, but perhaps there'll be some more interesting material in there.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Well, what we heard was David Miscavige. It's always interesting to hear David Miscavige. Um, and we don't know exactly what the circumstances were, so I don't want to guess, but based on what I heard a man who sounds a little older than the last time I heard him. There was something in his voice that did sound like the man is 65 years old. But other than that, it was the typical tortured diction. There was a question we had when what was the guy? Dan Sherman had passed away. Dan Sherman was the official biographer for L. Ron Hubbard for the church and was supposedly writing all these speeches. And so we always kind of blame Dan Sherman for these bizarre sentence constructions. Because remember, David Miscavige never actually graduated high school.
Yeah.
So, but no, even without Dan Sherman, I mean, the same tortured sentences and strange diction. I don't know. I kind of find it entertaining. What about you?
Well, tediously entertaining. Yeah. I mean, there's something fun about Miscavige's delivery. And, I can't quite recreate it, but I mean, it's astonishing to hear his cadence over the years.
Yeah, it's strange. But in this case, we didn't get to hear him for very long. He just was basically setting up what appeared to be a video they played to the audience about this new project, L. Ron Hubbard Hall. It's been coming for many, many years. We've seen fundraisers for many, many years. And of course, there's a new controversy over the last little piece of land they want to make this all happen. They do have the land for where the building's going to be. The building's going to go up one way or the other. And this was his big reveal to Scientologists as to what this is going to be like. We didn't get to see it. We only have the audio, but we definitely got a lavish description of it. Now, I don't know if you were aware of this, but we finally figured it's the same guy that they used for the Super Bowl ads. And we finally figured out who it is, thanks to Mitch Brisker. It's an actor by the name of Shane Johnson. And sure enough, if you go watch Shane Johnson, he's been in some very good things. He's been a very, active working actor. You'll realize, that's him. They've been using him for all the Super Bowl ads, and that's him describing this hall. And I guess the point that they want to make is not only that it's all state of the art, of course, because Scientology loves to spend money. Not only will you be going to this state of the art place with this incredible sound system, but then it'll transform itself. And apparently it's going to have some kind of a celestial ceiling or something. I wish we could have seen some video on that, right?
Well, yeah, at least some renderings. I'm assuming that they had really beautiful animation for everything. But I think you can. It paints a vivid portrait for you, and it does sound amazing. It does sound like they're spending a lot of money, and it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. And it's something that we'll never see.
Yeah, well, now you made that point in today's piece. That was a very good point. It's they'll never let any of us in. But I bet it is a very lavish thing. One thing I left out that you told me about, it was that apparently your source said after the video or during the video, they put up the words groundbreaking this summer. Is that what you saw or you heard?
Right. So as far as David Miscavige is concerned, this is a done deal. They're they're moving forward. The city's taking a vote, but who really needs that?
Right.
They're going to get what they need from the city.
Right. Well, let's get into that part of it. So they have, like I said, they have the land for the hall. They're going to build the hall.
Yeah.
And it catty corner from the flag building. In between of the two of them, there's some land that they want to turn into a park. but there's a little road down the middle of it, and that's the controversy. Scientology wants the city to sell them that road, and the city was prepared to do it. The city council voted 3-2 initially to have the staff prepare things and get things ready for a final vote. But then something happened that kind of threw a wrench into it. Can you explain briefly what that was?
Yeah, right at the last minute, when they were taking this last vote, another proposal came in. The deadline was 5 o'clock to submit any proposal for use of the street. And at 4 o'clock, everybody on the council got emailed this proposal for Memorial Park, essentially honoring the African American neighborhood that used to have a thriving business district there. And man, oh man, there were a couple really upset council members at that meeting that night who were just devastated that they would have to kick the can down the road for another month.
Well, and the key thing about that was that they had 3 votes to sell this to Scientology, but then when that last minute proposal came in, one of those 3, David Albritton, decided, yeah, let's wait a while and consider this new proposal. That must have been shocking to Miscavige.
Well, perhaps. I mean, it was something that I was incredibly happy to see. David, and I worked with David for 4 years on the council. He is a really good man. I admire him. It was a pleasure being on the council with him. When I was on the council, we discussed this land swap. I was looking at that video again, I think yesterday, where I said, listen, I'm willing to consider any land swap, but whatever happens, Miscavige has to come through first. We have to put the property into like a trust, and as soon as he finishes what he promised, then we'll sell him the property. And David followed me immediately after that and said, I have to agree with Mark. Yeah. So I was a little startled to see how on board he was now.
Well, again, he had voted with the others that decided let's take our time and look at this new proposal, and that must have shocked Miscavige.
Oh,
And you can criticize them for coming in a little late, but what a great plan they have for honoring the African American community in Clearwater and using it for something that would be beneficial to the whole community.
right.
Looks like a great idea. Yeah, I wish they'd come in a little earlier, but you really can't criticize them for the concept behind it. But even though the city council decided to wait a little bit, what happened this week? You did a video this week. David Albert, he did what? He went on radio with Sarah Heller. Explain
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, there's a local radio station here that's kind of a pay to play station. You have to buy airtime, and then you can go out and sell ads on it. And there's a couple that's been doing a show on this station for 9 years now. Kelly is the woman who hosts it. And I know Kelly. I got to know her when I was in the Clearwater Citizens Academy back when I was running for office the first time. They have a 10-week session where people from the community can apply to take this course to learn all about the different departments in the city and how the city is run. And it's a really great experience for anyone actually who lives here. But I thought it would be essential for me as a candidate to go and take that. Excuse me. And I did. And because of my applying for it, the city then opened it up to anyone else who was running for office. So it wouldn't be, some sort of thing that was exclusive to me. And so there were several people in that class who were running for office that year. And Kelly went over to one of those folks at the end of the meeting and said, "Ooh, would you come on my show? Ooh, I'd love to interview you." And then I came up to her and said, "Well, I'm running for city council as well." And she just kind of looked at me and, okay. So if she was not going to talk to me ever, although I've tried to, remain cordial. And we developed a little bit of a bond after there was a vote that was taken on doing some major changes to Drew Street that would have brought safety to that neighborhood. And she came to talk at one of the meetings where we voted on it, and she told, I think, a pretty powerful story about how she had had a head-on collision on Drew that really did a lot of damage to her, and psychologically, it's still difficult for her to even consider driving down Drew Street, so she avoids it now. Um, and when I voted to make those improvements, I kind of cited her as one of the reasons. I said, when you compare, a head-on collision with being a couple minutes late for work, if you're working downtown, safety wins. So after that, she was, we'd bump into each other, and she was, you know, pleasant with me, but still would never have me on her show. So I was shocked when I saw that David was going on with Sarah Heller, because I thought, David made a post on Facebook before that radio show saying, I have told Scientology that they have to make a public explanation of this. They need to do a pitch, or they may not have the votes. So I thought, well, maybe there's hope that David will vote no. But then he appeared on the show with Sarah Heller. Sarah was in the radio station for the thing live, and David was often in Iowa in a cornfield somewhere. So he just called in, but clearly David's all on board. And do I blame him? Not really, because I think they're in a spot now where they think it's our only option. They own the property. We got to let them do what they're going to do, which is wrong. But I think it's a certainty that Miscavige has the votes he needs now. And there's going to be a vote on it Thursday. Monday afternoon is the work session, so they'll be having their little discussion about it, asking and getting answers to any final questions. And then Thursday night will be the vote. And it's going to be a packed house. There's going to be so many people there talking. There was an event this morning for Save the Garden that I wish I could have attended. Instead, I was up all night making a video for Tony Ortega's website. Got to bed about 7 a.m. and thought, I don't think I'll be able to make it to 10 a.m. Little get together. But there's a lot of passion there, and I got to say, the folks at Save the Garden have really done a spectacular job making their pitch to the public. Problem is, most of the public are completely unaware of this.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of folks who pack the council chambers at the last meeting. There was a special meeting a weekend ago for a town hall where virtually everyone. There were two things that were discussed there. One, that the council are tyrants who are stopping free speech. That's all the armed fishermen folks who came in from way out of town just to kind of create a scene. And then the other folks were those who were talking about Garden Street and Scientology. And one of the local stations surprised me by doing a story about that town hall. And my attorney, Dennis DeFlaming, who defended me in Chicago and defended Jesse Prince here when Jesse was set up on drug charges, and defended Bob Minton when he had a little scuffle with a Scientologist security guard. He's one of the top attorneys, one of the top defense attorneys in all of Florida. And he is going to come and talk. He saw that newscast and said, "Hey, when's the vote going to be? I want to come and share my story." So he actually he had a friend, his closest friend, I guess, who was having a wedding reception at the Fort Harrison Hotel. And Dennis and his wife were invited, and they showed up to attend and were told, no, you can't come in. Yeah, but this is, yeah, no, no, you're not allowed. So he wants to kind of share that this is what you're dealing with when you have Scientology controlling your downtown. Is
That's right.
this is this really what you want for the future of your downtown? So I expect him to be there for that meeting, along with tons of other people. And will it matter? I don't think so. I think Miscavige has his votes. It's going to go forward. Now, whether Miscavige comes through, that's the question. And on what timetable, if he even does come through, because he is repairing, he is refurbishing 3 buildings on Cleveland Street now. It's taken them a couple of years of work to kind of get it so you can see, oh yeah, well, there is activity going on in those 3 buildings, at least one of them. Um, uh, by uh, uh, by contrast, City Hall broke ground a couple of months ago on a new City Hall. The council, the city broke ground, and I drive by it, and every day I see progress on that sucker. I mean, it's going up pretty fast, and later this year, the new City Hall is going to be open. Meanwhile, they've been
Wow.
fiddling around with these 3 buildings on Cleveland for a couple of years now. And if they plan to restore all of the buildings downtown, they may need that billionaire timeline. Um, and then I think I made the point in what I wrote for you for the page today. Um, do you want Miscavige controlling the entire downtown? Do you want him micromanaging who has businesses, who's allowed to go into the restaurants, do we want them monitoring our every move when we're down there shopping, dining, or going to a movie? Because I can't imagine him not exerting control. We already had, when I was working at the LMT back in 2000, we had people who would call us and say, I wrote a letter to the editor of the St. Pete Times saying that L. Ron Hubbard was a horrible science fiction writer. And Pat Harney and L. Butner, both the PR people for Scientology at that point, went down to this guy's job and tried to have him fired for that letter to the editor. Is that what you want, controlling your entire downtown? And for some reason, the city doesn't want to even consider the downsides of this. They're just kind of going, well, they own the property. There's nothing we can do about it.
And I don't even know how well these city councilors are sort of aware of the larger picture, which is something that I've been saying for years now. And that is, as Scientology has dwindled around the world, Dave is putting more focus on Clearwater.
Oh yeah,
Los Angeles is just not the focus it used to be. Int Base, he's basically abandoned. Um, and it looks like the way I would describe it is I was saying that he's circling the wagons in Clearwater. He's making Clearwater his base of operations. He's asking the celebrities to move there.
yep.
And, how does a performance hall fit into that? Well, I raised this question quite a while ago. I said, I wonder if partly it's a security thing too. That I remember that a reporter sneaked into the IAS gala in East Grinstead in England one time. And I wonder if they're concerned about that kind of thing. And once he's built this hall, and now that we see how he's really trying to create that plaza into this big Vatican kind of thing, will he bring all the events there? New Year's Eve will no longer be in LA. It'll be in Clearwater. The IAS gala in October will no longer be in England. It'll be in Clearwater at their L. Ron Hubbard Hall.
Mhm.
Well, I thought there was one statement in the video that we got the audio leak from that was really telling. This is a paragraph that Shane Johnson, something that Shane Johnson said. He said this: yet even all of that is only the beginning. In an instant, it transforms. Seats vanish beneath the floor, And what was an auditorium becomes something entirely new, a grand ballroom, unveiled in full splendor, tables aglow, crystals shimmering, and every detail set to honor those who make planetary salvage possible. That's the patron's ball he's describing. That's the thing they do in the big tent in East Grinstead and IAS. So I think that's a big admission in this thing that you gave us, this audio that was leaked. I think that is their plan. I think David Miscavige is really consolidating things in Clearwater. He knows that Scientology is in decline in most parts of the world, but this is where he's making a stand, a final stand. He knows that Florida politicians are the most corrupt in America. I think he'd be a little concerned about California politicians at this point. So anyway, I thought that was a huge detail that they put into there, admitting that, yeah, the IAS gala is going to be in Clearwater at some point in the future, maybe New Year's Eve as well. And again, it points to Clearwater becoming this fortress of Scientology. And I don't know, do you think the city council members have any concept of that?
I don't think they would care. It doesn't matter to them. I have certainly pointed that out over the years when I was on the council, that they're circling the wagons here. I mean, I think that perhaps it was a wake-up call when I got voted onto the council, and there was a big push after that for people to move to Clearwater to make sure that someone like me would never win again. So yeah, it clearly, and it's going to save them, the headache of having to pay Ruth Eckert and setting up there and go, all the different places that they pay to rent for all these different events. They have a home base. They can proudly say, "Listen, this is Scientology's, headquarters for broadcasting. I mean, we're sending out live video to the Scientology network across the globe. So why bother going anywhere else when you're creating this state-of-the-art facility with all these cameras and jibs?" And I was surprised to see they were mentioning jibs, extendable jibs, and so they're making it the place to do all of these events.
Right. And I heard from Tom DeVaught, who also wanted to make a point about what this means to Miscavige personally. And I think it's related to what I think things have changed for him in the early 90s, or through the 90s into the early 2000s. He saw it base as being that central place in the world. And they spent so much money on what I think they call Building 50, which was basically this monument to Miscavige. It was this office building. The interiors are incredibly expensive. There's a great picture of Tom Cruise on his motorcycle out in front of it. This was going to be their sort of hideaway, headquarters, monument to Miscavige. But he abandoned that place. Things changed at Int Base for him. And now he's in Florida. And so this is what Tom DeVaught said to me. He said, you got to know, LRH Hall has always been his ultimate dream. Everything he does leads to that auditorium. It's the crown jewel, his own stage where he can write scripts, direct performances, hear himself preach about a movement that no longer moves. A platform built not to spread Scientology, but to prop up the illusion that it still matters, mainly to him. I think he's right about that. I think this is, Miscavige knows the reality that Scientology is not expanding the way they say. It's shrinking. And so he's going to center it on himself in one location in this incredible setting. And like you said, it sounds like he's got the votes to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, Ryan Cotton, who replaced me on the council, he has no interest in finding out more. I mean, he was kind of bragging during the council meeting when he said, "Yeah, the Tracy McManus of the Tampa Bay Times asked me during the campaign, Did I know that Scientology purchased all these buildings secretly? No, I didn't. No, so what? Uh, and he's completely unwilling to consider the fact that this is not just any other church. This is an organization who wanted to take over all of Clearwater. That was their stated goal, for God's sakes. It's still in.
Right.
And yet it's like, well, we can be great partners together in taking over the city. And I was reflecting on this a little earlier this afternoon, looking at the design that I put as the image on the video that I uploaded. You see the huge L. Ron Hubbard Park. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Has the city even talked about that being named L. Ron Hubbard Park?
It has never been once mentioned. It's just a public park that Scientology is going to pay to upkeep. So Ryan was incredibly thrilled that it's not going to cost us a penny. It's not going to cost us anything. They're going to, be doing the upkeep. Oh, it's costing the city a fortune. It's costing the city our future. Now, when you go down to the beach, you go right past that. But now, when you drive down that road, you don't really see Scientology. You catch a little glimpse of the flag building as you pass Gardens Avenue going to the beach, but then you've got just like a little white fence kind of covering up where the park is going to be. Um, so, if you're stopped at the light and you look down, you go, "Oh, there's the Fort Harrison Hotel. There's this nice hotel." I was driving some people down to a concert last weekend, and we drove past. I took a side street, so we drove past Flag and the Fort Harrison, and the people in the car, young, like five young guys and women. And they were going, "Oh, what a beautiful hotel. I'd love to stay there." Well, good luck. You got to be a Scientologist to stay in that hotel. And then they were actually stunned. What? They own what? They own all of this down here? What? But normally you don't see any of the Scientology stuff going to the beach. Now that's going to change. Uh, you're going to see that beautiful L. Ron Hubbard Park with the monuments, the 21 precepts, all his words chiseled into stone, for God's sakes. And everyone who sees that is going to go, "What the hell is it? Oh, it's Scientology. Oh my God, that's creepy." Um, so the L. Ron Hubbard Park was kind of kept quiet. Oh, it's just a park. It's a park for the public. They'll love it. It's the L. Ron Hubbard Park. It's so insane. They win. They win. How can you? That's now the new gateway to the downtown. Used to be the old road that went down to the beach went right down Cleveland Street, the main drag. And when I moved there in 2000 for the LMT, it was already dead there. So many of the buildings were empty. Not as many as are empty now, but you had to drive through there and see people, protesting Scientology. And I have lots of video of cars driving by honking during our protests. And the city said, let's build a new bridge and move the street to get to the beach away from downtown, which of course did not help downtown one bit.
Right.
So now it's just an afterthought for anyone. Why drive down that road when, you want to get to the beach? Boom, there's the major road. So, I mean, the city just has made things worse and worse for themselves. And, there was hope that we could revive the downtown despite Scientology. There's no despiting it anymore.
Well, I was just there a couple of weeks ago, and I've been to downtown Clearwater before, but this time it really struck me how much the flag building grabs your attention as you're going to the beach. But you're right. That's with the the area between when you're on the road to the beach, the area between you and flag is just sort of nondescript. There's nothing to look at. But once they put in the park with the monuments and then this gigantic hall, wow, it's really going to hit you as you're going to the beach. What is this? And I was just stunned at how big the flag building is. I for some reason hadn't remembered that. It's massive. So they really are building this thing that's going to grab everyone's attention. And it's like game over. Like you said, who's going to want to go down there? Get past all that stuff to get to Coachman Park and Cleveland Street and actually do something. But I will tell you, Mark, you did a great job. The park is beautiful. The bandshell is wonderful. I was really happy to see all that the other day. It's a wonderful place that deserves to have a good good lively scene.
Absolutely.
But it's going to be their Vatican.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I mean, we still have 420 apartments going up on the bluffs. We've got a hotel, we've got retail, we've got a beer garden, we've got restaurants all on the way. Things that Miscavige can't control. So that will help, but at this point, things seem almost insurmountable.
Well, there is one downside. There is one downside to concentration, though. Now that I think about it, in 2009, 2010, the FBI did an investigation of Scientology and came very close to raiding Int Bait. Very close. They had talked to both Mark Headley and Matt Petch about going along with them to identify people and that kind of thing. They changed their minds for various reasons. But I remember Mike Rinder telling me that it was after that he got all the video stuff moved into the city at SMP. He spread a lot of people out of there. And I remember Mike telling me Miscavige realized when you have all these indentured servants in one place, all that concentration makes it much more of a target for government. And Dave realized he got to spread things out. He probably got that advice from the attorneys. And so he put, studios over here and moved these other people over there. And he moved stuff to well, he's doing it again. He's putting he's going to make Clearwater into this massive central headquarters of the world. And we can only hope that at some point, a few years from now, when things are a little different in Washington, maybe some Fed will start looking at that and saying, how do we let that happen? Look at the way they've taken over that town and what's going on there. We can only hope that the government at some point gets some interest in that.
It's hard to think of the government having any interest at all. It's been so long that we've had nothing but chaos in Washington, D.C. Even during the I won't go into Biden because I think Biden did a good job, even though he was an old guy. But even during that point, we had the people like Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress, and who do you go to? Who's nothing sensible has been accomplished, and now our only hope would be to say, "Hey, Trump, all of these people who work in Clearwater, Florida, they shouldn't be here in the country. They're bringing people in from other countries.
They got a lot of immigrants. That's true.
And take them all and put them down in El Salvador. But no, he's surrounded himself with Scientologists, big-moneyed Scientologists, so they're protected.
One thing. Go ahead. About the way government works is that I've talked to some, there are federal employees that want to investigate Scientology,
sure,
that know that Scientology is violating its IRS agreement, that understand the allegations of trafficking, of extortion.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people in the federal government that want to do something about it. The problem is what we saw in 2009, 2010 is you had some FBI agents that were very dedicated, very into this, and they got cut off from above. And that's the problem with the federal government is that it takes more than interest of at the agent level. It's got to have that upper level support, and they're just not going to get it right now.
Right.
So not with Pam Bondi as AG, and not with somebody like Trish Duggan so close to the president. So it's going to take some change, but at some point, that's really what it's going to take. It's when the agents finally get to do their work and do the investigations that clearly are called for, and get some support higher up. That's when we're going to see some change. And Mark, we may have to wait a while.
Yeah, quite some time, and it's going to take some major scandal before any attention is really drawn to it. And that's a possibility. There may be something so egregious that is uncovered that eventually they'll have to look into it. But at this point, it seems like the Mormon control of Salt Lake City, or it's going to be compared to that.
Right. All right. Well, listen, thank you so much. That was a great scoop that you got. Love the audio. I hope it sounds like we might have some more coming. Looking forward to that. And I'm so glad you're keeping on top of this stuff in Clearwater with the vote. I guess that's probably the next time we'll talk is after that happens. Mark Bunker, thank you so much, man.
My pleasure.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.